It was Halloween 2023. I was 22, exhausted from a long day of work as a community organizer.
The last thing I wanted to do was anything social. But my 15-year-old sister, Savannah, and 11-year-old nephew, Jackson, needed a trick-or-treating escort. As usual, the job fell to the cool big brother. Jackson was Sub-Zero. Savannah, dressed as Raven, had that ghostly white makeup that made her face appear almost fluting. I drove them to a busy neighborhood to maximize the candy haul. The night was perfect. Friendly people, cool costumes, and one older gentleman who was grilling hot dogs for protein instead of handing out sugar. But as we walked back to the car, about a 10-minute walk, the neighborhood grew quiet. That's when my eye caught movement across the street. The person was dressed in all black, a hooded cloak and mask. They seemed to be looking directly at us. I whispered to Savannah and Jackson, "Stay close. There's a suspicious person across the yard. Look, but don't stare." Jackson laughed, thinking it was a cheap scare tactic. Savannah, who knew I was carrying my Glock in my backpack, went noticeably rigid. We kept walking, but the person was still watching. Then I heard it. Heavy, deliberate footsteps, boots hitting the concrete, right behind us. I spun around. The person was closer, and I could see them clearly now. Same all-black figure, but the costume was no joke. Tactical vest, tactical boots, and a full, featureless spandex mask. They were following us, and everything about their appearance screamed armed. I lowered my voice to a dangerous whisper, addressing the kids. Listen very carefully. Do not stop walking. Do not look back. The person I mentioned is following us. My mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. As we reached the car, I knew I couldn't risk letting them catch up. I pulled out my Glock and pointed it at the person, demanding to know why they were following us. The figure immediately raised their hands, then slowly removed the mask. It was a woman in her 30s. She stared blankly. When I asked again, still pointing the weapon, she spoke in an unsettling, almost robotic tone. Her story made zero sense. Why the tactical gear and the cloak? Why stand facing away from a supposed break-in? Why target us? I challenged her, and her expression changed, a flash of pure malice and irritation. Then she gave me a creepy, unsettling smile and said, "If you didn't have that gun, this night would have ended a hell of a lot different for you." Just then, 4 more figures, all in tactical gear, unsmiling, emotionless, emerged from between the houses and started walking toward us. I shoved the kids into the car and drove off, glancing back to see the woman still standing there, smiling. The others just watched, with faces like they didn't even have souls. A few days later, a picture arrived on my phone from an unknown number. A photo of my car in my apartment parking lot. I reported it all, but the police couldn't act without a direct threat. My own investigation confirmed her story was a lie. The homeowner she was supposedly watching reported no break-in. This wasn't a random encounter. Were they watching me before? Was I targeted? I had to go to therapy and install a Ring camera to feel safe again. I believe with absolute certainty that being armed that night saved our lives. I was 12, and my family was staying at a small resort for Halloween. About 10 cabins, a main lodge, and woods on all sides. By day, it was peaceful. By night, those woods turned black and creepy, making the resort feel unnervingly quiet. We checked in early, excited by the smell of campfire smoke and candy apples. The evening climax was the haunted hayride, set to start around 7 o'clock. The tractor pulled a wagon through the woods, lit by flickering torches. Costumed zombies jumped out, and everyone laughed. It was fun, until it wasn't. Halfway through a particularly dark stretch of trail, the tractor slowed. I looked toward the woods and saw him. Standing at the edge of the torchlight was a man. He wasn't a part of the cast. He wore a black jacket, jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low. He wasn't moving. He was just watching. As we passed, I felt his eyes lock onto me, even though his face was obscured by shadow. I glanced away, but when I looked back, he was still there, in the exact same motionless position. When the ride ended, I looked back. He was gone. My friend Ryan and I were near the snack table when I saw him again, standing 30 feet away, near the tree line, alone, still watching. I nudged Ryan, who shrugged and suggested he was just a worker or a dad. But he wasn't talking to anyone. He was only looking in my direction. Ryan and I decided to walk down a trail behind the cabins. We only went about 200 feet in, near an old private property sign. We stopped there, throwing rocks, daring each other. Then we heard it. Heavy, slow footsteps coming from deeper on the path behind us.
We froze. It wasn't a kid. It was an adult. The footsteps stopped. Then a man's voice, calm but intimidating, spoke out. "Hey there, boys." Ryan and I instantly realized it was the man from the hayride. He stepped into the light, just enough for us to confirm the black jacket and hat. He took a step closer. "I got a bunch more of these in my cabin. Come on, I'll give you some. I saw you boys on the hayride earlier." That last line, the casual mention of having watched us earlier, was the line that broke the spell. I grabbed Ryan's arm and whispered, "Run!" We turned and sprinted back toward the resort. We ran until we burst out of the trees and back into the light of the bonfire crowd. When we finally turned back, breathless, the path was empty. The man was gone. The police found nothing. No one matching his description had checked in. He was never found. What scares me now is not what he did, but the realization that his entire night was spent not enjoying the festival, but watching and waiting for a moment of isolation. I'm Roger. 3 years ago, I was 29, living alone in a small house on the quiet outskirts of town. My girlfriend was away, and on Halloween, I was happily lounging on the couch, watching a horror movie and picking through leftover candy. By 10:30 p.m., the crowd was long gone. Then a faint knock came at the side door. I assumed it was a final group of stragglers or a ding-dong ditch prank. When I opened the door, no one was there, just the empty driveway and the sound of rustling leaves. I went back to my movie. 15 minutes later, the sound came again, but this time from the back door. I crept into the kitchen, staying low. Through the window, I saw him. A man crouched near the door, wearing dark clothes and a cheap, cracked Halloween mask pushed up on his head. In his hand, he held a crowbar. He wasn't hiding. He was calm and deliberate, slowly testing the doorknob. He was checking if I was home, and he didn't care. I backed away silently, grabbed my phone, and whispered to 911. The dispatcher told me to stay on the line and lock myself somewhere safe, but I didn't want to make noise. I stayed crouched at the top of the kitchen steps, clutching a kitchen knife, giving whispered updates. I watched as he moved away from the back door. Then I heard the faint pop of a window screen being pried off. He was at the basement window now. I whispered the location to the dispatcher, my voice shaking. Then came the awful final sound. Glass cracking. He was breaking the window. This wasn't a smash and grab burglar. He knew I was inside and was determined to enter anyway. Minutes felt like hours as the dispatcher kept me talking. I heard his footsteps crunching outside as he circled the house. Then the salvation. Headlights swept across the blinds. Flashing red and blue lights pulled up out front. The man bolted, sprinting across the yard, but the officers tackled him just past my driveway. I watched as they led him away. The police later confirmed his history of breaking into homes and revealed the contents of his bag: a cold .45 handgun, kitchen knives, and rope. This wasn't a robbery. This was a plan for something far worse. That night, the only difference between my safety and a horrific outcome was 5 minutes of police response time. To this day, the sound of a slow knock or a rattling doorknob sends me right back to that terrifying Halloween night.